It's time to record this podcast.
If my hands were down, that would have been better. But that's...
Welcome to the show, everybody. Hey, my name is Nick Beveridge. Welcome to the Investor Shed podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Jeremy Kitchen.
Top of the morning, especially if you're listening to this live on Facebook, X, or MySpace. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a really cool episode today, Nick.
I would love to be live on MySpace and only stay on that platform.
Yeah, we should get endorsements for being live on MySpace only.
Yeah. Can you do that these days?
I'll get in touch with Justin Timberlake, and we'll see if, my guys will call his guys.
Good.
And we'll set up an interview. We'll set up a meeting, okay?
That would be one in a million.
Business meeting.
Speaking of million, so I thought it'd be fun today to talk about the development deal I'm a part of, and this will be the second development deal that I'm working on in Post Falls. And specifically when I mean developing, I'm talking about buying a raw piece of acreage.
Undercooked?
Raw.
Okay.
Raw dogging that piece of acreage.
Yep.
And not just building a house, but actually subdividing that lot into multiple different lots.
I love it.
Putting in infrastructure and then selling to a builder. So that's what I thought maybe we can share today a little bit more details on how you can do this.
I love it. Honestly, this is your second big development deal that you've done, correct?
Yeah.
The first one worked out really well for you.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is when we purchased it like kind of just before the peak of the market, and values did go down in general. Demand went down a lot, but we still made a fuck ton of money.
You did.
And that's because we analyzed the numbers to death and just played worst case scenarios. And we really took our time. And the cool thing about that one was that we all had our own cash into it.
Yeah.
So even though it took like 3 years to get done, we didn't have all this heavy interest cost that like brought the profits way down.
You actually partnered with your hard money lenders on this one too, which was nice. So they had money in, you had money in. It's not like you were making, again, monthly payments. They were all co-investing with you.
That's true.
Yeah.
And one of the partners was actually, he owned the biggest share, like 33%. But the interesting way we structured this, because he was not bringing any money to the game, any money that we were bringing to the game, we would get paid interest on our money that we put into it at 10% annual. And that money would actually come out of his profits.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
So it's like he was getting the loan from us.
So
as
he
we were
did
partners.
a hard money loan against you guys. And you funded his deal.
And I don't know if it was the fairest thing, honestly. It was kind of thrown on him last minute by one of the other members. I think, if I remember right. And it was, but it made sense.
Yeah.
It's just because he was the project manager. It's like it incentivized him to get this project done faster.
That's how it would be on a normal
as the
thing,
time is ticking, it's going to cost him more money out of his profits. So fair or not, it worked.
Right. And everybody, at the end of the day, the relationship's still good there. And yeah. May not have been like exactly how we wanted it to structured, but you got to the finish line.
Yep, that's true. So specifically, this was in Post Falls, Idaho. It's a growing area. It's been growing for many, many years. You've lived in Post Falls a long time. I remember moving to Post Falls in 1991, I think, 92.
Yeah.
And there were just a couple thousand people in that whole town. That was the population of Post Falls back then. It's a lot bigger now.
Couple more thousand. It's at least double that.
At least. I remember getting off the freeway as a little child before we moved there to look at our first house. And I remember seeing the City Hall building. And it wasn't a building; it was a trailer off Spokane. It was a little trailer off Spokane Avenue. Or Spokane Street, whatever.
It's still in the same spot, isn't it?
It's still in the same spot, but they took a lot more acreage, and they have a big, fancy, nice building now.
Yeah. They didn't just stack a whole bunch of mobile homes next to each other for all the different departments.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. Do you remember that little mobile home?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Because you grew up in Post Falls too.
I did, but I wasn't exactly aware of what was happening. We never went down that way. We were up north Post Falls.
Right.
And I don't remember ever going down there or needing to go down there for anything.
Yeah, and I guess I did live a little closer to that area. But we moved here from Newman Lake.
Right.
I think we spent like a half a year or a year at Newman Lake coming from California when I was like 4.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago. Hard to remember every detail, but I do remember that detail. Coming into Post Falls, small little town, and a little trailer, basically, for City Hall.
Love it.
And it's just cool to see it evolve.
Yeah.
And, here we are 30 years later. And I remember when I was in middle school, and my 7th grade, I think it was a history teacher. He let us all know, hey, guess what? Currently, right now, Post Falls is the fastest growing city in the nation.
Wow.
I was like, wow.
Wowie.
That is so cool.
Well, there's a lot of room for growth when there's infrastructure for it. There's actually room for it.
Yeah. Now, why businesses constantly fail in Post Falls, I don't know.
Yep. Couldn't tell you.
Seems like they can't, like a restaurant can't stay open for more than a couple of years.
Yeah. Shout out to Rogers. You're doing it. You're doing the work of it. Yeah.
You remember River City Rod Run?
Hot Rod Cafe?
Or Hot Rod Cafe. And then that seemed like an area of just restaurants go there to die, except for Denny's.
Denny's has survived, I was going to say, survived the apocalypse down there.
Yeah, and they've got this beautiful area by the river that's like all this infrastructure is in there for like a nice downtown area.
Yeah.
That just really hasn't hit yet, but I feel like it's starting to slowly be built out.
Sure.
Anyway, it's not exactly why we're investing in Post Falls. We just know we're investing in Post Falls because it's close to us and we know that there's demand.
Yep.
There's people that live and work in, live in Idaho. They want to live in Idaho and they maybe work in Spokane or Washington. And it's just an easy, 5-minute hop across the border.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, way off track here. Wanted to talk about this new deal my business partner Joe and I have under contract. Or I'm sorry, we closed on it.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say,
own
this has been like 2 months in the making now, it feels like.
Yeah, as of this recording, we're in the spring of 2025. We closed on it in at the start of the year, like January 7th.
Sure.
And we just got through a couple weeks ago our Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah.
And we got approved to move to the next step.
Nice.
We'll be up against the city council for approval or denial here in the next few weeks. And
the REI team versus the city council. Stay tuned.
I know. And it is scary because half the people on that city council, they just say no because they don't like growth.
Yep.
And that's what they ran on. And they're just, no matter how good or bad it is for the public, they just say no.
Do you guys have a plan going into this meeting?
We've had so many plans. I mean, we strategized yesterday. We had an hour phone call strategizing all this stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
Can you walk me through kind of your plan on this? I mean, like, this is something I don't know anything about, like having to talk to city council and get approval and get permits and get all these things and have to go through this 30-step process in order to get your land subdivided, I'm assuming, right? In order to sell
and
it.
Annexed in.
And annexed in, correct?
So currently, the reason why we bought this property is because it's directly across the street from the property that we did a couple years ago.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
And it borders the city of Post Falls. So it's a county piece of property. And there's a lot of people don't even understand this.
Right.
When you say, oh, I live in Post Falls, that could mean that you live in the city of Post Falls or you live in Post Falls in Kootenai County.
Yep.
And that hasn't been annexed into the city yet. Maybe you're on septic. You're not on a city sewer system. Maybe your taxes are a little bit lower. Because you're not paying for any of the city services. You're not going to have the city of Post Falls police come to your door.
Right.
If something's wrong, you're going to have the Kootenai County Sheriff Department come because that's their jurisdiction.
Out of their jurisdiction.
You're not going to, trash pickup may not service your house. Maybe you have to run to the dump. Sometimes there's trash service though. But just know that there is a difference. A lot of people, there's an incredible amount of people don't understand this. And it took me a while to figure this out too. I think I was 5 years into being a real estate agent before I realized the difference.
Yeah.
But I also, I came from Florida in Orlando where just everything was on the city.
Right.
And it just never really occurred to me until I started working in this area that, oh yeah, there's things that are, county property and city property. And, some of the advantages of being on city property is like being a part of the sewer system, and just all the city lights, and yada yada yada. As actually, there's not a whole lot of advantages.
Now that I'm talking about them,
I'm like sidewalks, street lights, cool, and a lot more regulation.
Yeah, and a lot more HOA. Boom.
Yeah, higher property taxes and all that stuff. But it makes it possible for more affordable living.
Yep.
Because you don't have to just try to survive on acreage and have everything else self-sustaining in a way. On acreage properties, usually you're on your own private water system,
right?
Either with like a big community system or a private well. This property has a private well.
Cool.
If your water goes out, it's not the city's problem; it's your problem.
Right. Exactly. It's your damn well's fault,
or it's the community's problem. So there's a little bit more certainty when you live in the city.
Sure.
That like your water and your sewer are going to probably run a little bit more efficient and more consistently.
Yeah.
Than otherwise.
So you're trying to get this annexed into the city is what your plan is.
So annexed in meaning like this property will become part of the city. The city's not going to own it. They will own like the roadways and the right of ways and the sidewalks.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take care of them.
Right.
But maybe not the streets. Like, so there's some back and forth. And there are advantages. The city itself wants to grow. The city employees typically are pro-growth because it keeps them employed and keeps them busy.
Right.
And they know they can handle more. But the city council, those are elected people that may have different opinions.
Sure.
They're not going off logic or anything. They're just going off emotions, and they could turn down these opportunities because they're the last step. They're the last, So initially, if you have a raw piece of land, and if you guys wanted to try something like this out and see if this is something that you can do one day too, because I'll go back a little bit and tell you the broad overview of our plan here and why we want to do it. We're buying a property for $665,000, and we're going to put approximately $800,000 to $900,000 worth of improvements into it.
Okay.
So if you do the math, you're closer to 1.5 million.
Yeah.
And once we do those improvements and turn it into, in our case, trying to turn it into 25 different sellable building lots.
Okay.
For 25 homes. A builder would actually buy that from us for a little over like $3.4 million.
Gotcha. So you get 3x your money really quick, if it goes well. Right?
Now there's all these other fees and stuff involved,
Right.
and like hard money fees and city fees and engineering fees and surveying fees, and there's fees. We know that with everything that we have planned to spend on this property based off some experience and quotes and stuff like that, we'll actually, if everything goes well and we stay on budget and we get it done within 2 years, myself and my partner should net $1,900,000 net total.
Yeah.
And then we have another partner that we brought on, so we're actually planning on getting a little bit less now, closer to $400,000 each.
Yeah,
because we have another partner that helped with some of the funding and putting the deal together. Long story, I'm not going to get into, maybe on another podcast.
Yeah.
How that all came about. It was a very complex deal, hard to get. These kind of properties are hard to get.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other developers out there that know there's a lot of money to be made doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And this is one I specifically, you brought to my attention, hoping that I would possibly invest with you. The deal just didn't quite make sense to me at the time.
Yeah.
There was there was a high upside, but there was also high risk.
It is high risk because if the city council says no, there's a chance we're going to lose money.
Right. And that was something like what I would have had to do for this deal is I would have had to invest with my HELOC, which is not the ideal situation, especially when it has a question mark date and a question mark ending.
Yeah. And a question mark, is this possible?
Right. Is this even a thing that can actually happen?
Yeah. It is risky.
Right.
So I want to throw that out there for you guys. If you're planning on, this is what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
Just know that you got to be able to take some risk in this because if we cannot get past the city council, if they just decline it based off emotions, even though all the stars are lining up and saying they should annex this property in because it's going to continue what they already have.
Right. It's going to help growth of the city, like you said.
If they don't take advantage of this opportunity now, a new house will be built here, and they won't have another opportunity for 100 years, probably. There's all kinds of reasons why they should say yes, and also it's part of their future plan. Like if you look at their broad, comprehensive plan for the growth of the city, it's right there. It's like, this is the next step.
Right.
This property here, and does it meet all the qualifications? Is there enough? Is traffic already figured out? All this stuff we've gone through before we ever purchased the land. We sat down with the city, we sat down with an engineer, we sat down with a surveyor, all those things.
Right.
And we were able to conclude that almost all of them, very good chance this is going to get annexed in.
Okay.
But you're still taking a gamble.
Right. Specifically since it was on the same road directly across from the development you just did.
Yeah.
And they approved that, I'm assuming, correct?
They did, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean,
So actually, but we didn't have, when we bought that, it was already approved.
Gotcha. Okay.
To be annexed. It was already annexed.
But you're right. It sounds like the stars are aligning. That's already approved and it's right there. Why wouldn't they approve it? But also, they could say no.
They could say no. So that's a risk that we were willing to take.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we knew that if they said no, worst case scenario, we're going to fix up this house and resell it or keep it as a long-term rental. If we fix it up and resell it, we're probably going to lose $100,000.
Sure.
Possibly. Might break even.
Combined?
Total.
Yeah. So the risk versus reward here, and let's just break that down for a second, right? You could potentially lose $100,000, which you can lose on a normal flip.
Yeah.
I've seen people lose that amount of money on just a normal flip, or you could net over $1 million.
Yes.
So it's a negative 10% plus 100%, basically.
The odds are in our favor.
Yeah.
It's not like a 50-50. You know, we've been given like 80% optimistic, probably closer to 95%. Like
Right.
there's a 95% chance this is going to go through because it fits with their criteria and all that stuff. But there's still that huge element of risk because you're dealing with a group of 5 people.
Yep.
Where 2 of them are, they're going to say no. You
know it.
2 people are going to say no.
Does the decision have to be unanimous?
No.
Okay.
Has to be
Majority.
So the 3 people that typically are okay with this stuff, we want to make sure that they're still going to say potentially yes.
Yeah.
And there's one guy with red hair that could potentially always make the difference because he's kind of neutral on almost everything. So it's kind of
Real quick, I apologize for stopping you here, but like, there's 5 people that make the decisions in Kootenai County for Post Falls.
For Post Falls, the city of Post Falls. I mean, there's actually 6, but like on the last couple, I haven't seen this one guy there.
Right. So it needs to, in order for you to pass, you need to get majority. So you need to get 3 people.
Yeah.
Man, what a fucking...
We need to get 3 or more.
How wild.
Yeah. So there is this chance. We know that likely 2 of them will say no, just because that's what they do.
Statistically, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Okay.
There has been in the past where they've approved subdivisions when it benefited them. Like I remember being told that the Westman, I believe is the guy's name. Hey, quick commercial break here. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really do appreciate it. If you want to give back, let me help you buy a house, or I can help you sell a house. It's the only way I make money when I'm not investing in real estate. I don't make money on this podcast or the events I do, but I do make money only when I help people buy and sell houses. So if you're looking for your next investment and you're here in North Idaho, I want to help you personally. If you are not in North Idaho, I can still help you out. I have a vast network of referral partners all across the country, and I can find the right real estate investor savvy agent for you so you don't have to. It doesn't cost you a thing. Thank you for your support. Back to the show. You had a conflict of interest and said yes to a potential subdivision recently because one of his best friends was going to try to buy one of the lots.
Gotcha.
Or something like that. So, I mean, they're elected officials.
Right.
And,
They can be swayed.
They can be swayed if it benefits them
Right.
directly.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sometimes, that's just the way this world works.
Right.
Nothing's fair in this. That's what I've learned in business. Nothing is ever fair.
Right.
You just got to, anticipate the worst case scenario and try to build safeguards based off that base.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, yeah, the plan is so the first thing we did, we got this property under contract and brought it to the city to get their opinion of it. At the same time, also brought it to 3 different engineers. Total of 3. At first, it was just 1.
Is this all during your due diligence period?
Yep,
right?
during
Okay.
due diligence.
Yeah.
Wanted to get their opinions and kind of get an idea how many lots we can get out of this.
How big is it?
It's 4.5 acres.
4.5 acres. Okay.
Yep. So if you guys are out there just kind of basically playing with numbers, if you have like a 4.5 acre, 5 acre lot, and if you get R2, which can be in Post Falls, and a lot of cities follow the same like R codes.
Yeah.
R2 is a medium residential zoning, and we would specifically want detached dwellings that would have a minimum of 4,000 square foot lots.
Okay.
If you go for R1, I think it's a minimum of like 6,500 lots, and that's like normal houses, normal kind of lot sizes.
What do you mean by detached dwellings?
When I say detached, I mean like a single family home that isn't attached to another.
So it's not like a townhome where it's like
Exactly.
Okay,
a townhome
gotcha.
or a condo or something like that.
I wasn't sure if you meant like house and then like detached garage, or house and then like ADU or something.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very good question. When people in the real estate industry speak detached in general, what they mean is like a house that's not physically connected to another house.
Right. So there's no HOA for the entire unit or anything like that, because that's what happens in those kind of condos, townhomes, right?
Yeah, and you're going to have HOAs with
Right,
these little developments anyway. But specifically, what I mean is just like these are going to be, but they're in R2. You could also do twin homes, which would be attached.
Gotcha.
Twin lots, like in the subdivision across the street that was also R2. It was zoned for twin homes, or allowed for twin homes.
Sure.
And those were like duplex. They look like duplexes, but they were individually owned. If you took an imaginary line and put it right in the middle of the duplex, that's the property line.
Right.
Now you share the same roof. You have a common wall that you share.
Yep.
Everything else is separate. You still have your own yard. You still have your own backyard.
How does it work?
You still have your own
and I
garage.
feel like I know the answer here, but like, how does it work when there's a duplex and you each own one side of it hypothetically, right? And there's that imaginary line down the middle.
Yeah.
Say the roof goes out. Who pays for that?
Now, specifically, when you said a duplex,
Right.
the owner pays for that.
Right.
Now, that's different if it's a twin home.
Twin home. Yes. Yes.
Typically it's going to be somewhere in your HOAs telling you exactly what's going to happen. Every little situation is different.
Sure.
But yeah, it would be weird to see half the roof
Yep.
new and half the roof old.
Yeah.
But that could be possible.
Very well. Okay.
So it depends on what's in the HOA agreement and who's responsible for that. A lot of townhome, like when I used to sell townhomes, which were much more common in like Florida.
Yeah.
They're common all over the country, but like in North Idaho, we don't have a lot of townhomes.
Right.
What I'm used to seeing is people pay a monthly fee to an association, and that association takes care of all the exterior maintenance of the home.
That's what I see.
Of all the homes, and they're paying for that. So like if a row of townhouses, 20, 30 years from now, all of a sudden needs a new roof, the HOA is paying for that roof because they would get money every month from the owners.
Gotcha.
To maintain that exterior.
Just like an insurance premium almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's probably a lot more complex. You just need to look into your individual HOAs when it's just you have one other neighbor that you share a wall with.
That makes sense.
But there should be an HOA still.
Yeah.
A recorded HOA that tells exactly what's going to happen, so you don't have to guess.
Yep. Well, let's continue with your development. Sorry, I kind of sidetracked.
No,
I
that's
was
okay.
curious
It was a
about
great
the
question.
So
That was a great question.
yeah, so you got 4.6 acres, and you're trying to build these lots. How many lots are you trying to get?
Out of this one, so we can get 25.
Cool. Okay.
And that's with the roads and the sidewalks and and a minimum of 4,000 square foot. Not all of them are, as small as can be.
Right.
Some of them are 5,500 square feet or so. But the way we can lay it out with the roads now, typically the cities want multiple entrances into your subdivision. So you can't, most of the time, if you have 5 acres, you can't just have like one street going in
Kinda
and
like
then
a U or something like that.
Yeah. And like a little, and then coming right back out of the same road. Or like a little block and coming back out.
Yeah.
They usually want multiple entrances or future entrances. So if you ever kind of drive by like a new construction neighborhood, you might notice a lot that like the roads will just kind of end and barricade somewhere.
Yep.
But it looks like it could be continued one day. So expect that.
Yeah,
Expect to
of
see that. The city always wants like, hey, if these other neighbors someday annex into the city, we want access already planned.
Right. Yeah. Which makes sense.
So that can eat into a little. So if you're initially doing your due diligence and you're like mapping things out and placing lots somewhere, you might think you have more lots than you actually do.
Yeah.
So take that into consideration. Also, make sure you know how big your streets have to be, and know how big your sidewalks have to be, and the swells.
Sure.
And all these things come.
A lot of things to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you are off of a main busy road, how much of that road is going to be expanded into your property for a big common area swell and, potential walls and signage and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to think about, a lot to consider. You always want to guess on the lower end of how many lots you can potentially get out of your property, or just deal with an engineer who's done it before. That's the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah. And that's what you guys did, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. So, we checked with 3 or 4 different engineers and finally settled on one that does a shit ton of business in the Northwest. Yeah. Not just Idaho, but they also do a lot in Spokane.
Okay.
And they just happen to be doing the one right next to us that also is going to be in front of city council soon.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So we picked a property that should be a no-brainer for the city.
Sure.
And not just an oddball.
Right.
Island somewhere in the middle of the county.
Right.
Because remember, you got to bring continue the sewer system and the roads.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. If you have a piece of county land that has no city immediately in its vicinity, good luck annexing something like that.
Right. Why would they bring resources out if...
Well, and the city doesn't do it, you do it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So you just got to make sure that doing plenty of big due diligence on this. That's what it requires, is tons of due diligence, tons of planning, tons of talking to people.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is you're not going out there and fixing drywall.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is different, from improving real estate, what most people do.
Yeah. You're getting to the dirt to a point where it can be built upon, correct? And fully just the infrastructure all set, and then you're handing off to a builder and saying, good luck.
Yeah.
You bought this thing. You do what you want with it now. It's not my problem anymore.
Yeah. So funny thing about this property, when we initially got it under contract, we got it under contract for a no-brainer price that would allow us to, if declined for the city, we would still make money flipping the house.
Gotcha.
But there were 14 liens on this property.
Oh, that's right.
And we ended up having to pay over $240,000 more.
Wow. Okay.
So we were initially buying it for like low 400s, 415, 420, something like that. Ended up paying $665.
Wow.
So to be able to stomach, paying, where else in a real estate deal do you have something under contract and you're safe if you have to flip the house, but then you go ahead and pay close to retail,
right,
and close on it without knowing.
You didn't know that there were these liens?
No.
Okay.
We knew.
Yeah.
We knew there was a lot going on. The property was getting foreclosed on.
Right.
By multiple lien holders.
Yeah, there's 14 liens on it.
Yeah, there was the main lien holder, Wells Fargo, and then another lien holder who, a big second. So yeah, that was a lot to work through.
So you didn't negotiate with the seller, like, hey, you've got a lot of back liens on this property. You just went ahead and made the purchase?
So, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of sit downs.
Yeah.
So the seller had we had a choice. We can walk away from it.
Right. Did he know there were that many liens on it, or was he ignorant to the fact?
Oh, I'm sure he kind of had an idea.
Did he play to you that he just oh, I didn't know there was 14 liens?
I wasn't working with him directly.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry.
So I bought it from a wholesaler.
Okay.
But I did sit down with him a couple of times after the fact, after it was under contract.
Right.
And explained, so initially we got him to agree. We got the foreclosures postponed, and we were just going to be under contract for a while. And I'm trying to go back in my memory here.
Yeah.
And then we were going to apply with the city, and the second deal was, since we couldn't buy it for $415 or $420 anymore. Right. The second deal was, okay, we're gonna go under contract. If we can pay $665,000, that way you can still walk away with $30,000. The goal for him was work with us so he could walk away with some money. Right. Instead of just lose everything.
Right.
We can't buy it for what you want and walk away with $30,000 right now without knowing that there's a chance we can lose money. Right. Made that very clear. But how about we extend the closing? We're going to risk $3,000 and we're going to apply with the city of Post Falls for an annexation. Sure. And we're going to get his consent. And we have it, in the contract so we can share it with the city of Post Falls. Okay, this owner's given us consent to apply for annexation. And we started going through that process. The problem was one of the other lien holders was able to get their foreclosure back in place. And it was going to be foreclosed. This is a couple, Sure. This was an ongoing thing because we initially went under contract last fall, eventually closed in early January. Yeah. But one of the other lien holders, who was an attorney, was representing him and it was a guy. Gotcha. He knew what we were doing, which was fine. He was fine with that. He just knew that he had this one opportunity to try to get his money back, or else he could have been screwed. Yeah. If it got foreclosed with somebody else. Gotcha. Because he couldn't just repost a share sale or something like that. It was complex. Yeah. So we ended up working with the lien holders. We got Wells Fargo pushed far enough down the road, but not this one. Right. So he ended up being a second lien holder with us, and only with the trust of one of his friends, who's also a real estate investor and developer in the area, who became one of our partners. Gotcha. So what his money that was owed to him, he was able to just throw that on the back of what the deal that we were working on. Like, okay, you can pay me that balance in 2 years. At like a 10 or 12% interest rate. Okay, cool. which he was good with that.
Yeah.
And we shook hands but we had to close.
Right.
So we had to decide, walk away from this or roll the dice, take the risk of losing $100,000 in the chance of a very good chance of making $1 million.
Right.
So we decided, let's fuck it. We got 3 people now.
Yeah.
3 of us to spread that risk around, and we were going to take the risk. And also, we weren't going to go down without a fight.
Right.
If we got declined, we were going to appeal, try again a year later, and the plan was to rent it all out and kind of make it a hodgepodgey, cesspool of rentals.
Right. Right.
Renting out RVs and storage space and all kinds of stuff. We were going to get creative to not lose our money right away.
Yeah.
But that's what we agreed to do. We moved forward. We closed on it.
Gotcha. Okay.
We even negotiated with the wholesaler if he can cut his fee in half for now, and if we get it annexed in, we'll pay him the other half. So there was a lot of renegotiating with everybody.
Was this Andrew that sent it to you?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
What a crazy deal.
So yeah, it was a very crazy deal, and it's still a crazy deal. I mean, there's still, somebody stole our shop.
That's that property.
Somebody stole our shop. People are stealing siding off the house. They had to keep going there. They're running through the gates there's tweakers on this property all the time, just stealing shit, which sucks.
We were shooting a video, and I didn't know that was the property you were talking about. I thought it was like some rental that was already established, not this like 5-acre, 4.5-acre parcel thing that just you let people on to take some stuff. And,
yeah, we were trying to get rid of some abandoned vehicles. And abandoned RVs, and so we were allowing people to just go and pick up what they needed.
Have you learned anything from doing that?
Yeah, we don't do that now.
Great, thanks. That sounds like a good idea.
Because a funny thing I learned from the sheriff's department is new laws. If you allow somebody to go on your property, they can do whatever they want.
And you don't tell them what they can and cannot take. Like, don't take my siding, don't take this.
Oh, you have to be very specific.
Yep.
You have to be specific to say, do not take the house.
Yep.
Do not take the shop. Only take these items.
Yep.
Instead, we're just like, because we incriminated ourselves by saying go ahead and take any vehicle you want and not specifically excluding.
Like, well, this vinyl's a vehicle.
Yeah, I know. It's so stupid. It's dumb. It's dumb.
Anyway,
Dumb.
that's a lesson for all you people out there.
Somebody stole a shop.
Somebody stole the shop. When you let people onto your property, which first of all,
half the shop.
First of all, don't let people onto your property to just take stuff without you being there or without some sort of agreement in place.
It was a good lesson.
Good lesson, right? So just make sure you are crystal clear with all of your communication with anybody who's coming to your property to take things.
Yeah. So what happened was it made it a lot more difficult to turn this house around and do a quick fix and flip, because now half of the shop has been demoed, and in the house it's been broken into. A lot of the windows are broken and destroyed, and they took siding off the house.
Why?
People are fucking crazy. I pulled up.
What's the use of it though? Like,
I don't know. They're gonna sell the siding. That they need drugs.
Right.
There's people that they'll steal anything they can to try to sell it on Craigslist.
I've never been that desperate for cash, so I don't understand. But like in my head, like if I ripped a piece of siding off that just sounds like a huge inconvenience to my life. Like, what am I gonna do with this?
They were ripping off a lot of siding and loading up a trailer to go sell it. Anyway,
yeah, it's just baffling that like you have a half deconstructed shop. People broke out your windows. Again, just don't let people on your property to do this stuff.
Yeah. So 2 more big pieces of information if you're doing this that you're going to want to know is how much is it going to cost you to develop the land?
Yep.
And how much can you sell these lots for?
Those are very key pieces. Yes.
Yeah. So we're working with on the last deal. We worked with Lennar.
Big builder in the area.
Big builder.
Yep.
Big builder in the country.
Yeah.
They're the second biggest builder.
Not quite first.
And then on this deal, we're working with the biggest builder in the country, DR Horton.
Okay.
They're hungry. They want their Idaho meals.
Give me some land.
Give me some land. We want to build. They want 35% market share of building in this area, and they don't really have much. They don't have solid relationships built with really anybody. They have a big appetite. They're willing to pay a little bit more for land than most people.
Yeah.
And we're not necessarily committed. We don't have to sell to them. I'd like to, because this guy's helped us out a lot.
Yeah.
With like elevation plans that we can use for the city council and stuff to like show the houses that will go there. And
that's
stuff.
awesome. Yeah. That's
like,
super...
look, it's not just going to be twin homes, or like we're planning on building detached homes,
right?
Entry level price points.
Yeah.
And it's DR Horton. They're going to be entry level price points.
Right.
So they're, that's the plan.
Okay.
And they told us how much they'll pay. Now maybe they'll pay a little bit more. But for now, for these 4,000 square foot lots, I think they're paying around 130 a lot.
That's a beacon. That's a beacon for you, right? And that's stuff that you're doing while you're doing your due diligence. So like, okay, they are going to pay this. We can get this many lots, and that's how you come to your profit margin, right?
And not only that, they were willing to send a letter of intent, spelling out, based off this subdivision, we can pay about this much. And of course, they want that under contract early. We're not going to do that.
Right.
We don't want to commit to them yet because what if the market changes? If the market changes in the next couple of years, they can back out, but we can't.
Yeah.
If the market changes for the better, if all of a sudden prices go way up, but we're stuck.
You don't have any negotiating power.
Yeah, if we've already agreed to sell at 130, and maybe our cost jumps up like in a few years ago.
Smart not fully committing to them yet, but I understand the
It's tempting. You're like,
right.
Oh, cool. We can go under contract right now.
Right.
Not going to do it.
Right.
There's plenty of buyers out there,
Right?
But at least we have a couple of ideas to know how much these lots are worth versus the larger lots.
Sure.
The larger lots are probably worth closer to 160, and we'll make a little bit more selling the smaller lots because we'll get more.
Yeah.
More as in like 400 grand more total net profit.
Do you think the tweakers out there, are they like just around that area, or are they?
Oh, I think they drive there.
Yeah, well, I know they drive there. It's like the fact that they have a trailer and they have all this stuff, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
I think they couch surf other properties similar to this. I don't know.
yeah, I just don't know. It's like a whole different racket that maybe we're in the wrong business.
I know. So anyway, that's that. And then how much does it cost to develop? It's a good idea to talk to many, and many can be one or two.
Right.
But it's a good idea to get an idea of roughly how much does it cost per lot to develop as an average, and that would include the streets, the sidewalks, the gutters, the swells.
Is that all stuff that you guys are paying for, or you're passing off to the builders?
No, this is stuff that we would be paying for.
Yeah.
Bringing in the sewer system, expanding the road, expanding the sewer system to every single lot, bringing power to every single lot.
So you're just basically selling them build-ready lots, correct? Okay, gotcha.
Bringing internet to every single lot, bringing water to every single lot.
Yeah.
Dealing with all these different vendors and contractors and companies to get their approval to put their infrastructure in at our cost, at our expense, basically. Some people will do it like Avista. They'll want a big bond, but they'll do it for free.
Sure.
Because they're going to make money on it.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these cable companies, they will do it for free because they're going to make money on it.
Right.
The water, they won't do it for free. I mean, they'll tell you what they need. You'll have to order water boxes. Sometimes you'll screw up and order the wrong size, and it might cost you $36,000.
Is that what happened in your last deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Also, keep in mind that when you're doing this big stuff, you're always on the hook for everything.
Yeah.
Even if other people make mistakes, like our engineers that we pay to engineer us plans and tell us what to order and tell us what to do could be wrong. And if they're wrong, it's our cost.
Yeah.
So like these water meter boxes on this other subdivision, that A Solutions in Post Falls told us to order these sizes. They were the incorrect sizes.
Gotcha.
And it was a $36,000 mistake. And they said, they didn't even say sorry. Guess we know for next time. We get to pay for it. They're not paying for it.
Right.
They don't give a shit. Nobody gives a shit about your money in real estate investing. So y'all know. Yeah. And it's very, very hard to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
So just know when mistakes are made, it's typically you paying for it. You can try to get other people to pay for it.
What did you do with the old water boxes?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I think there was a credit or something, but it was, a whole subdivision of water boxes that had to be changed out.
Right.
It wasn't free.
No. Wild.
I think there was a credit or something, but I think it ended up costing us $36,000.
Gotcha.
On the last subdivision.
Right.
So there's things like that could happen and that you need to budget for mistakes. You need to, but we're doing 25 lots and we got a budget somewhere between $30,000 to $35,000 per lot is the average. So basically you just take 25. Oh, I don't have my calculator here because we're recording with it. But I think it's going to cost us around $850,000 if you take, and we'll guess on the high side instead of the low side, which is probably going to be lower because they're smaller lots.
What number am I inputting into the math?
So do $35,000.
$35,000
and multiply that by 25.
25.
Which is how many lots?
875.
Yeah. So we need to budget for the construction of these lots, $875,000.
Almost $1 million.
Yep. And then we also need to budget our surveying costs, which is approximately 15,000, and then we also need to budget the city fees, which are going to be about 25,000 as well, and we need to budget the engineering fees, which are roughly 40 to 50K, depending on how extensive the work becomes. And then you need to budget your hard money costs if you have other investors. So, I mean, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars in other costs other than the development.
Right.
And the acquisition itself.
Right.
So you need to keep these other costs in mind and talk to other developers about what to anticipate, and maybe see if you can take a sneak peek, if you're ever doing this, at maybe one of their P&Ls on their development to get an idea of what some of these similar costs are across the board.
Right.
Because they're all using, the same types in general. If it's the same type of zoning, they're in the same type of lot build outs. They're roughly, using the same kind of equipment and same kind of labor costs and all that stuff. Everything's a little bit different, but it's best just to try to get every single line item and then add money to that to budget what you might need. And then know that you may not need this other $900,000 for a year. So maybe don't get a loan for the full amount right up front, and just get a loan for, like for instance, what we did was we got a loan for the acquisition, and then we got another $100,000 from one of our partners to put in a bank as we need it, instead of getting a whole loan for another $900,000,
right,
and then paying $9,000 a month payments on something we don't need for another year,
right.
Because you can easily waste $100,000 that way.
Yeah.
Just in interest.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And just doing like real quick math again, you acquired this property for, was it 685? 665. That was your acquisition cost. Plus you had all these engineers and everything else come out from then, correct?
Yep.
Is that built into that 665 or?
No.
Okay.
So 665 was a purchase of the land.
Gotcha.
That's it.
And then just going based off those numbers that you just told me, like 875 for the development, 15, 25, 50 for all the other costs. That was without hard money.
Yep.
So you're at 965 plus 665.
And then, I'm just going to bring up the spreadsheet.
Cool.
So that we're
So you're at like $1 million, almost like $1.7 million right there.
Yeah. So here's an idea. 665 for the purchase. We up front, we had about $7,000 in lender fees, which was low.
Right.
It's only a point, but it's because we know these hard money lenders worked with them a lot.
Right. And it's a big deal. And a big deal like this, typically they may lessen their points knowing that it's a bigger project too.
Yeah. Other closing costs, $3,500. The development costs that we have budgeted right now, I don't know why does that say 525?
35K a lot times 25? That should be 875.
Oh, this is R1. I'm sorry. I'm looking at it. If we ended up with R1 bigger lots, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong spreadsheet. Let's go to what we're going for, which is R2, which is 25 lots. The purchase price ended up being, after closing costs, $676,118.
Sure.
We had approximately $4,000 in lender fees and $3,500 in cost. The development cost $30,000 per lot plus $50,000.
35?
Yeah, I don't know why we had $30,000 there. I think he told us stay on the lower end because they're smaller lots.
Sure. Okay.
And we have an extra $50,000 in there to demo all the buildings,
right,
and properly compact the gravel and all that.
Yeah.
And then there's another $30,000 of engineering and survey cost. We have approximately $150,000 for the mortgage payments for the first year with our main hard money lender, and then built into that $150,000 is 24 months of that second lien interest.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's just an average, $150,000 for those two. And then property taxes, $2,800. Mortgage interest on the development cost, which will come later, probably a year later. Of $88,000 for that 12 months. That's if it goes a full 24 months.
Gotcha. Utilities
at $3,000. City fees approximately $1,000 per lot, $25,000. So Green Acres, a Vista cost, $5,000 in permits there. And then if we sell it for $125,000 a lot, so guessing a little bit lower. So we're just guessing, hey, what if they actually can't pay $130,000?
Yeah.
And they can only pay $125,000. So that's $3,125,000 for the selling price when we go to resell. Commissions, paying us commissions, and any other agents that might be working with us, but there's not. But we have a separate business, a real estate agent team that would make $187,000 fee.
Yeah.
So that's a separate fee. It does go to us, but we would be paying an agent if we weren't licensed. So might as well have it in there.
Right.
And then we have that second half of the wholesale fee paid back to Andrew. This is assuming that we do get it annexed in. So another $500 to him. By the way, this wholesaler is making 25 grand on this deal if we can get it annexed in.
I love it.
If we can't get it annexed in, he's agreed that just his upfront fee was $12,500. He already got that. That's all he's getting if we can't get it annexed in.
Sure.
That's the deal we had.
Cool.
And then other selling costs, if we go to sell this, $23,437.
And do you have all the liens associated in here too that need to get paid off or that you kick down the road? Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So so what we have when you're dealing with a profit and loss statement or trying to estimate your renovation, you don't necessarily have your loan amounts in there.
Right.
All you have is the fees that you're paying on your loans.
Sure.
As cost. If everything goes according to plan, and if it takes a full 2 years, we should make $1,093,000. 10% of that would actually go towards the investors as a second round. What they wanted, the way we set up this loan too, is if it does go all the way, they're going to get a 10% bonus for giving us this loan with no payments.
Cool.
We're not making any payments.
Right. That's pretty
That's the cool thing.
Yeah.
There's interest being built up in the background, but we don't have to make any payments. And if we get this other, $850,000 loan to do the construction of the development, we're not making any payments on that either.
Cool.
There's still approximately $88,000 in interest that will be built up. But on top of that, for not having to make payments, they'll make 10% of the net profits.
Cool.
Which would be approximately $110,000 bonus to the investors.
Gotcha.
And then Joe and I would make approximately $375,000 each, and then our partner would make approximately $250,000.
Is it 40, 40, 20? Is that how it's split?
It's split 37.5, 37.5, and 25.
Okay, cool.
So our partner who brought in, he helped us rescue this deal. He knew the second lien holder, and he was able to talk him down and to put in his loan on the back end. We're also not making payments to him. It's just building up.
Yeah.
So he put that together. He came in as a 25% partner and also brought us $100,000 and dumped it into our bank account as we need it.
Not bad.
And he's also been incredibly helpful during this process of every step of dealing with engineers and all this stuff because he's done it before too.
Sure.
Like we're partnering with somebody who's done it before multiple times.
That's a great
and
partner.
He's bringing us the money. It's like, okay, you can have 25%.
All right, fine.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Josh.
Yeah.
His name's Josh.
Okay.
Josh Sewer, good guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the plan.
Cool.
Any questions about that?
It all looks good on paper. Obviously, I mean, your next step is kind of just getting in front of city council. Do you have a date for that to happen?
We don't have a date. We had an emergency phone call yesterday because there was a denial recently, a few nights ago, where they denied a subdivision for R1 that was just down the road.
Yeah.
But it was on the corner of Pole Line and McGuire. Now, it wasn't adjacent already the city's on the other side of the street.
Right.
I think we'll have a much better shot because we're in this weird little cove below this the train tracks.
Yeah.
Where there's already development all around us. And we would just be a continuation of that.
Yeah.
So I think we have a little better shot, but there is still like an emergency. Oh, should we strategize this better? Should we wait? And I think what we ended up deciding was we might just hold off for another month or two so that we can come in at the same time as the neighbor right next to us.
Sure.
Because that's been a common theme that we've noticed with the city council wanting to shut things down is, well, if the neighbor may do it later, maybe blah 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 blah.
Right,
we don't want to give them any excuses to say no.
Sure. That could either work for or against you. I'm not part of city council, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah, they might say, "Oh, we can turn down a bunch right here."
Yeah. We can batch turn them down because like maybe they fuck up and it puts a bad taste in their mouth, and now like since they have that bad taste in their mouth, like they're just gonna take it down the track. But who knows how that could play out?
The experts that do this for a living are telling us that this is a safer way to go.
Sure.
So
kind of fly under the radar type of thing.
Not really flying under the radar, but making it so that there's very limited excuses.
Right.
Limited excuses of why you would turn this down when we're solving all the problems that you can potentially raise. The only excuse you're going to have is just, I don't want to. Yeah. And that's not a good enough excuse.
No.
That's it.
Cool. Well, this is a crazy development deal. I'm sorry I didn't invest in it. I know you guys got it figured out. It actually worked better without me being a part of it.
Yeah.
from the sidelines, though, I'm like definitely rooting for you guys and hoping like this thing like pays out for you.
And there hopefully will be more in the future, but it is risk. Like I know you don't like risk, and I appreciate that about you.
Yeah.
I think you're smarter when it comes to analyzing like your gut and risky situations. I think you're better at that than I am.
Right.
And knowing when you say no more than I do.
Right.
And I think that you're better at doing that. Maybe you have more opportunities pass you by, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think you're better at going with your gut of like, oh, is there a chance we can lose money? I'm not interested.
Right. And it just depends on the
which
situation
is like
I'm in at
very,
the time, too, right?
But that's very Warren Buffett of you.
Thank you. That's a nice thing to say, but like, and I mean, like, I know you got to get going, but you brought me a deal the other day, and in my head, like, Sam talked to me afterwards. She's like, does it feel weird, like, denying your best friend, like, money? And I'm like, yes, it does. Like, it stings a little bit knowing that, like, you brought me something, and I'm like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't want the investment, but like you brought me a thing that was an emergency, and I want to fund it. I want to fund investments, not emergencies, right? Like I want a second to like look at the deal, look at the people, and do proper due diligence. And I think like that shows something.
Yeah.
But also like, yeah, I do miss a couple opportunities because I don't pull the trigger right away. But I also make a lot of money because sometimes I do pull the trigger right away. So it's just, it's the name of the game.
Yeah. You got to choose which bullets to dodge.
Yep, exactly. Super hot.
Super hot. Anyway, that's all we got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have any questions about anything that we can help out with in the future. You can always comment on these YouTube videos. Nobody's ever commented on these anymore, which is fine.
Ryan and Dave don't like us anymore.
They don't. Ryan and Dave hate us, which is fine. I understand. I hate myself too.
No, it's not fine. No, it's not fine. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to stand for this. No, thank you though so much for enjoying the episode. If you did, as always, subscribe if you haven't, and interact with the community. Get out there, make some deals happen.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.